Hi, this is your host Apil Bhartia, and we are back with our yearly video prediction series. And today we have with us Arthur Tyde, Senior Vice President of Global Business Development at CIQ. Arthur, it's great to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
It's my pleasure. Of course, our audience, they know CIQ very well. We have been following you folks since the inception and the work your folks are doing in this space. But just for the sake of our viewers, please remind our viewers what is CIQ from the context of 2026, because 2026 will bring new challenges. It's all about AI these days. So let's talk about what is CIQ from 2026 perspective.
CIQ is an interesting company. We started really in the high performance computing space, but we believe that in the future, which obviously now and beyond, that all workloads are going to become performance workloads. So if you look at the industry, right, where our background is very deep in high performance computing, we're now seeing AI, we're seeing sort of advanced HPC applications. We believe that the future is essentially all performance applications.
Thank you. Now it's time for you to grab your crystal ball and share your predictions with us.
Couple of predictions, actually 3 predictions that I very much believe in. We're seeing security become very important. Because in the age of AI, right, as we transition from sort of HPC infrastructures into AI, people tend to do things like pull their intellectual property into one place, and then they train AI models, which is awesome. But, the enterprise computing space today really depends on things like FIPS and common criteria and CVEs being patched and all kinds of remediative security that we're seeing a lack of in the open source space. So when Red Hat effectively ended free enterprise Linux, companies like CIQ are stepping in to fill the gap with Rocky. So, for example, we're providing FIPS, we're providing common criteria, we're providing an infrastructure, because when you pull all of your IP together into one place and you start training models, you probably don't want to do that on like a community OS or in an environment that doesn't take security really, really seriously, because if you're breached while you're training a model and all of your IP leaks out onto the dark web, well, that's a bad outcome. The second thing that I see is, traditional HPC and AI workloads are converging on unified infrastructure. And what that means is, companies that have not, that aren't accustomed to running high performance environments, and these are specifically, fast networking, low latency, multiple interconnect fabrics, GPUs. That's going to change not just how enterprises build infrastructure, but how they're going to orchestrate workloads. Right now, workload orchestration is typically something that, organizations have built themselves over time. We believe that addressing containerizing, optimizing orchestrated workloads for high performance computing and for AI is going to be really critical.
What are some of the biggest challenges or bottlenecks that you feel organizations will face this year?
The compliance velocity gap is definitely there, right? Like, security standards are evolving faster than most organizations can adapt to them. Just getting a FIPS certification alone can take a year. So companies are going to need partners who are sort of on top of that. And from CIQ standpoint, we take that very seriously for the reasons I've already discussed. HPC centers, they've invested years in sort of doing things the same way. That's going to be a challenge for everybody. And I'll give you an example. So we have a customer who's a very large automotive, and when they designed cars, they were on simulation software and big compute clusters, and this is typically software from like ANSYS, Siemens, Dassault, so Star CCM and LS Dyna come to mind, but they're running these simulations for airflow and things like that. when AI sort of came into the picture, IT departments were a little confused. They're like, well, how do we structure for this? How do we build for this? Because it's changing everything. And somebody, sort of lifted the trap door up and looked down into the basement and saw these people doing, airflow simulations and, like how heat gets distributed across the surface of a piston, things of that nature. And they saw the infrastructure and they said, this looks a lot like AI. And the HPC's guys were like, yeah, it is. It's very similar. So all of a sudden their budgets got tripled and quadrupled and so on. So now they have to not just build out this incredible infrastructure, but they have to figure out new and better ways to run it. So we see that as a major challenge for all the big companies that are embracing AI, but it's also an awesome opportunity for CIQ because that's actually the sweet spot where CIQ operates. We're really sort of about building the next generation secure and performance software infrastructure stack, right, for AI. So we're taking our HPC expertise and we're applying it to these opportunities that AI is putting in the market.
Excellent. Thank you. And what are some of the biggest opportunities that will arise this year?
Well, two. One would be the platform opportunity. Rocky Linux by CIQ is really the best, in my opinion. And by the way, my opinion goes way back. I've been in open source for 30 years. I've personally written the first checks to start organizations like OSDL, Free Standards Group, Linux Foundation, where I was the first CTO. So yeah, I've been watching this space for a long time. When CentOS stopped being a viable operating system for enterprise workloads, somebody needed to step in with a enterprise Linux that filled not just the, hey, we're part of the community and we're doing the right thing for the community, but also, putting the compliance pieces in, putting the security pieces in, putting the secure supply chain in, because I think that directly speaks to the issue of around security and AI. In the past, it's like if I'm just designing if I'm just doing airflow analysis over the body frame of a car and that system gets breached somehow, I've probably lost some data that I didn't want to lose, but I didn't lose everything. I didn't lose my competitive edge. But your LLM leaks out and you're really in a bad spot. So that's one thing. Second thing is we have this product called Fuzzball, which directly addresses the second problem, and that's how do you scale up? How do you become ready for AI? How do you become ready for a world where all workloads are performance workloads? And Fuzzball does that in a couple of interesting ways. One, it containerizes everything. Two, it allows you to pull all of your resources together. So GPU scarcity is a problem, and you don't always have access to the compute resources you need. Now, what Fuzzball will do is it will inventory your on-premise state. It will look at all the resources that you have in the clouds. And you can say, okay, I've got this AI workload, or I've got this HPC workload. I've got this workflow that I want to run. Fuzzball's smart enough to go, okay, I can get resources here and do it on-prem, or hey, I can do it over here on the cloud using your resources there. It will make the orchestration of workloads much more organic. And it'll also take a lot of the technical complexity out of the picture. The end user doesn't have to worry about SSHing into machines or doing, sort of command line stuff. They could just submit their jobs and their workflows like you would use with Claude or ChatGPT or something like that.
What is going to be your as well as CIQ's focus this year to help either explore these opportunities or help customers navigate through these challenges that you talked about?
Well, security is definitely one. When I think about predictions, I think people are going to realize that security is just as important as performance for AI. And I can give you I can give you some examples. I've been in several customer meetings where they're talking about deploying AI. And they're talking about pulling all their intellectual property into one place. And they're only focused on performance. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to train this model and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to do it on, Debian Mint or something. They're going to use some Debian derivative to train all their data, and it's going to be awesome and all of that. It's like, well, okay, so like when I go into some of these companies, they put tape on the cameras of my phone, right? You know where I'm going with this, right? It's like they're super, super diligent about protecting their IP. You can't take pictures of whiteboards and all that kind of stuff, but they're going to pull all their intellectual property into a Ubuntu machine and train their models. I think that's insane. So people are realizing that security is really, really important to AI, right? Once you've built your model, then you can focus on the fastest engines. So we've segregated our operating system offerings into RLCH, which is our hardened version, and then RLC AI. RLC AI isn't just for all AI applications. I mean, obviously you want to use RLC AI for performance once you have your LLM. But if I was building something, I'd use RLCH based systems to do my models. I don't care if it's super, super fast, but I don't want anybody to get into it. So I believe that realization is going to impact the greater sort of consciousness of people who are solving these problems. And then another prediction is just the tools that people are using for standard HPC. They're just not going to scale for AI, and that's a reality, and everybody's hitting that. You need a better way to do workflows. So we see that in every one of our customers.
Arthur, thank you so much for joining me and sharing these predictions with us. And as usual, I look forward to chatting with you folks again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat. And if there are any questions or you want to do any follow-up, I'd love to do it.